Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to you all to another round of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship, sponsored by Player1 Sim Gear. It is round 7, and we are still in the Americas. We're still hanging out. We're having some beers and some chips, supersizing our meals, which we do love. And of course, we are at the world-famous Daytona Beach International Raceway today. It is absolutely fantastic. Really looking forward to this Lobby B today. It's going to be a brilliant one, and we'll get into some info about the track and all that usual stuff very, very soon on stream. But a welcome in to everyone in the grandstand. My name is George Cooke, and I will be bringing you tonight the live commentary from the commentary box for all the action on track, which is going to go down very, very soon with our fantastic 20 minutes of qualifying and a 60-minute endurance race. We are back, of course, and Player1 Sim Gear has been sponsoring this event. Round 7 out of 10, so only 4 rounds to go, including this one. And the championship is heating up, not just in the top divisions, but also in the divisions that we are covering today, and that is the Pro-Am and Am category. But as you can see on screen, lots of beautiful views from Daytona Beach, and we've been enjoying the sunshine down here. It's been absolutely brilliant, watching a few planes take off in the distance, which has been absolutely lovely. It's a bloody lovely track, and you keep hearing me say the word lovely because I absolutely bloody love this place. It's one of my favorite circuits, certainly one of the favorites for all the drivers and the teams in the calendar. I've been having a chat with a few of them down in the paddock earlier on before the practice began, which it has done, and everyone's saying how excited they are for this 5.73 kilometer track and the 60-minute race coming up. As we know from last round, we had a double points round at Watkins Glen. So moving a little bit further to the east of the country now, down to Daytona. And it's going to be a bloody good race because the championship is heating up at the top. The points have been calculated, and we'll take you through all of the current results pretty soon. But it's a brilliant, brilliant afternoon here. It's sunny, it's dry, which is exactly the kind of situation that we want at Daytona, because we've got the big sweeping banks. We're obviously at the full course, so we'll be using the infield as well as the outfield, and these GT3 cars are going to be going like lightning around here. Very tricky to get them around the infield, but once you're on the outfield, lots of slipstream comes into effect, and even strategy as well. Strategy plays big here due to the big pit stop that is on offer today. So manage your strategy well, manage your tires well, keep in that slipstream and keep with the group ahead, and you should be in for a fantastic time here. And all the teams, like I said, really looking forward to this one. Let's jump into some information about the race today. So as I mentioned before, we are here for 60 minutes. The mandatory tire today is the soft tire, and it's round 7 out of 10. So we're coming up towards the end of the season, the latter 3 or 4 races of the first inaugural GT3 Championship here for the MotorMotion E-Series. And I'm, like I said, really looking forward to this today. So if you're interested in joining in with the MotorMotion E-Series League, then please do check out their website, www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. They post lots of awesome blogs and all sorts of information about the races, the teams, and all the other championships that they run, including the Supercar Series, the Surefire Supercar Series, and the Track Racer TCR Cup as well, which is still in the still going at the moment. We got our next round happening next week. Luckily, not an endurance round. We had that last time round, and it was good fun. But nonetheless, check us out on Facebook. Give a little bit of a like here on the stream, and a subscribe if you do enjoy today's broadcast. So as I said before, my name is George Cooke. You can find my socials here, my Twitch, which I just noticed a spelling mistake in there, Cray Good Kung Fu. It's Crazy Good Kung Fu on Twitch, my Kung Fu community on Discord, and my Twitter handle at Crazy Good Kung Fu. So thank you to the MotorMotion organizers for letting me broadcast myself a little bit while we broadcast the fantastic action that will be happening on track. So we are live, obviously, as you know, here for the Group B broadcast on YouTube. And we also have the Group A broadcast going, and a new streamer. We've had Joel Austin. Unfortunately, he's not been able to continue with the GT3 Championship for the rest of the season. So we brought in another fantastic, very experienced streamer and broadcaster. That is Ryan Palmer. and with the old legendary Nick Pautasso as well. So check them out on the Group A broadcast found here on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube as well. Give them a like and subscribe as well, because we really do appreciate it. It gives us an idea of how much interest we're gathering with the series, which is always good. And we've had fantastic participation, not only from viewers on the stream like yourselves, but all around the grid with teams, drivers, and people being interested in the engineering side and the racing side. So it's been fantastic. But today, like I said, 60 minutes, mandatory soft tire. So last week out, we were at round 6 at Watkins Glen. We had a special little feature race going on with a 10-minute qualifying, a 10-minute sprint race. So it's actually 10-lap sprint race, excuse me. And then a feature race as well. So we're going to quickly run through the results of that. But the BMW M6 and the Gridline Racing chaps and the Diffusion Race Engineering teams, they're both running the BMW M6 in the series. And they were looking very, very strong throughout the entire race. The sprint race results, top 3 were Jeff Bruin for Gridline Racing, bagging himself 22 points. Second was Aiden Sampson for Diffusion Race Engineering, getting himself 15 points. And then Matthew Jointson of Scarborough Motorsport in the Porsche 911 RSR. So very, very good little race there. A top AM class finisher in the red there, 5th, Richard Robinson for Diffusion Race Engineering, also in the BMW M6, getting himself a huge amount of points in the AM class championship. So well done to all of them. We did have, of course, a DNS as well from our privateer, Sean Parker, so he wasn't able to participate at Watkins Glen. Got caught at the airport. His car was, in fact, delivered on track, but he just wasn't able to make it, sadly. So then we go over to the feature race, and the feature race was a little bit longer than the sprint race, so 25 laps with a mandatory hard tire. The sprint race was run with the racing softs, and Aiden Sampson and Jeff Bruin had an absolutely mega battle at the end, with Jeff just making a tiny mistake that let Aiden right on through. So the two BMWs battling it out for the top space, but our driver of the day last week, well, actually 2 weeks ago, was Wade Rushton. He placed first in the AM category and 3rd overall. Brilliant result for him. First podium in the GT3 Championship for that driver. 25 points for him for Gridline Racing. So no matter what happened with Jeff, they still bagged a huge amount of points in that round. Fantastic job from them. And of course, we had Dylan Scarborough, 2nd place in the AM category, and 3rd place Troy Britnell. Good position for him on 9th overall, but still finishing ahead of a couple of Pro-Am drivers. So the standings as they are in the Silver and Bronze Championship at the moment, we've got Dean van der Zandt still out on a significant lead there from Matthew Jointson, 22 points, the difference between the two. And then Jeff Bruin in 3rd place for Gridline Racing on 69 points. 4th spot in the Pro-Am category, Aiden Sampson for Diffusion Race Engineering, 60 points. Then Monica Camilleri for NED Racing on 57 points, followed by Sean Parker, our privateer, who was up the top of the leaderboard, but unfortunately, with a couple of no-shows, that has dropped him right down the order. So now sitting in 6th spot with 53 points. Then it's Matt Kutcher for Black Rose Racing in the Mercedes AMG GT3 car, 30 points for him. And last but not least in the Pro-Am category is Ricky Rick for Strike Racetech on 15 points. Then in the AM class, leading at the moment with some brilliant results at Watkins Glen, Wade Rushton for Gridline Racing, now leading the AM class championship on 100 points. Closely followed, though, by Dylan Scarborough for Scarborough Motorsport in the Porsche 911 on 97 points. 3rd spot to Troy Britnell for Black Rose Racing, 78 points for him. And then 4th, it's Richard Robinson for Diffusion Race Engineering, 71 points there. Then Chris White, he's been having a few decent results lately. He's still keeping up in the championship, but falling a little bit behind in the latter half of the season. For WTCR, 53 points for Chris White. 6th spot goes to Karma Foster, and she's been doing a fantastic job for NED Racing, 50 points for her. And then last but not least, in 7th spot, it is Tim Piers for Strike Racetech on 29 points. And the overall team standings, this is actually between both Group A and Group B in the GT3 Championship. So currently in the lead by not a small margin at all, it's Scarborough Motorsport, the New South Wales team led by Dylan Scarborough and sponsored by JB Hi-Fi, 346 points for them overall. They'll be absolutely stoked with the previous results, as they did for a few races essentially take 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in a number of races in both the AM and Pro-Am categories. They'll be looking to continue that great run of form in the Elite and Pro categories. They're also performing very well. So the 911 Porsche looking very dominant on track. In second spot in the team championship, it is Diffusion Race Engineering on 312.5 points. They've had a couple of reserve drivers coming in the last couple of races and bringing in a few points. But of course, for any reserve driver in this championship, you only get 50% of the points they earn. So the New Zealand team there in second place, which I'm very proud of, being a New Zealand broadcaster. Then third place, it is Gridline Racing, the BMW M6s. Jeff Bruin and Wade Rushton doing very well for the Tasmanian team. 310 points for them. Valvoline sponsor on that BMW, and it is a beautiful, beautiful looking car. In fourth spot, Black Rose Racing, the South Australian team, with Matt Kutcher and Troy Britnell in the Pro-Am and AM categories, respectively. The Mercedes AMG there, looking very, very strong in a lot of tracks, being pulled along by their Elite and Pro Division counterparts in the team. 281 points for them, and sponsored by Inky and Chill Out. Then in fifth spot, it is NED Racing. And these guys, I do love them all. They're brilliant. Monica Camilleri and Karma Foster, both of those girls doing a brilliant job in the Pro-Am and AM categories. And 239 points for the Ned Whiskey-sponsored Aston Martin V12. So a very interesting choice of car. Could be very strong here. We know it's got a lot of top speed and should be pretty good on the tires around the infield as well. So looking forward to seeing what the Ned Racing crew can do today. In sixth spot, it is WTCR, the South Australian team, led by Wade Von Duve. And Dean van der Zandt has been dominating the Pro-Am category, with Chris White falling back a little bit in the AM category, but still pulling in some good points. 208.5 points for the team. And then last but not least, it is Strike Racetech, the Queensland-based team. We've got Ricky Rick and Tim Pears in the Pro-Am and AM categories with 105 points in total. And they are in the Mercedes AMG as well. So really, really good little lineup of the grid here. Things are heating up at the top. The top three teams only separated by about 40 points. And that can all swing around in the course of one round. And we're looking to see exactly where things are going to end up at the end of round 7. So a quick little overview here for you if you didn't know who's in the Pro-Am category and who's in the AM category. As you can see, there is one driver from each team in all of these categories. And our privateer, Sean Parker, who's not racing for a team, but has chosen the Mercedes AMG. He is in the Silver Championship, the Pro-Am class. And I believe he is on circuit today, so he's managed to finally catch a flight over from Europe and get himself out here. His car was delivered yesterday, and he'll be looking to get himself set up. It's a very tough thing to run by yourself in this kind of GT3 championship, but he's doing a fantastic job. He needs to get himself some good results today, and that Mercedes could be very, very strong here on the outfield part of Daytona. So to the entry list, and none of these drivers need introduction if you've been watching for the last 6 rounds, but very quickly in the 132 car, the Jaguar F-Type GT3, it is Dean van der Zandt for WCCR, and then his counterpart in the AM class. In the 73 car, it is Chris White. Then in the number 18 car for Gridline Racing, the BMW M6, sponsored by Valvoline, it is Jeff Bruin, and the 88 car of Gridline Racing in the AM class is Wade Rushton. In the 21 car for Diffusion Race Engineering, it is Aidan Sampson, looking to get a better result today overall, though he had a victory at Watkins Glen, so he led most of the sprint race, then unfortunately fell behind, and then he didn't lead most of the feature race, but ended up getting the win. So he'll be happy about last week round. In the 20 car, his counterpart, Richard Robinson for Diffusion Race Engineering. The 28 car of Ricky Rick, the Mercedes AMG, the stark red one, Strike Racetech will be very proud of their livery, doing a good job. And then in the number 9 car, it is Tim Pears, his counterpart in the AM class for Strike Racetech. In the 426 car, it is Matt Kutcher for Black Rose Racing, the black-coloured Mercedes AMG GT3 car. And in the 55 car, his counterpart, Troy Britnell. In the 777 car, it is Matthew Joinson, a championship contender. He's right up there on the top of the leaderboards, currently sitting in, I believe it's 2nd or 3rd place. And then the 22 car, the team owner of Scarborough Motorsport, Dylan Scarborough. In the 502 car, the Aston Martin V12, the pink Aston Martin V12. For NED Racing, it is Monica Camilleri. She has had some fantastic results recently, looking to continue a great run of form here at Daytona today. And her counterpart in the 666 car, it is Karma Foster, who's also been doing fantastic in the purple NED Racing Aston Martin V12. Then the Mercedes AMG in the 83 car of Sean Parker, our privateer, and myself, George Cooke, in the commentary box. So, taking a look at the weather today at Daytona, and we'll be going out on track pretty soon. The qualifying does begin in about 12 minutes, so we'll be talking through some other stuff related to the track and the teams and some strategy as well shortly. But nonetheless, it is a beautiful day. S08, humid, sunny and cloudy, as you can expect from a beach very near the sea Daytona International Racecourse. And we'll have some more lovely circuit information for you a little bit later, but 28 degrees on the track, a little bit of wind going around, so it's not exactly still out there. That'll cause a few headaches, potentially into the fourth corner. We'll see exactly how that pans out for the drivers. The fourth corner, not the place you want to have a tailwind, and no precipitation, well, a little bit of precipitation, but nothing on the horizon in terms of rain or weather, so that's all looking good. So we do now head out on track, and we start to listen to the fantastic sounds here at Daytona. It is absolutely brilliant, especially with the Mercedes being a V8 and all of that jazz. Really, really do enjoy the sound of this GT3 class category. And the Penrite sponsor, Black Rose Racing, we are watching now go through the infield. I'm interested to see what the strategy call is going to be today. We've got a few strategies on offer. There is a potential for a one-stop today, which I was chatting to the other commentators earlier on, some of the teams, and I suggested the one-stop. Some laughed and some sort of smirked and winked. So it suggests that there may be some one-stoppers out there thinking about how do they save some time at the pit stop. Pit stop can be upwards of 30 to 40 seconds as you do go into the pits on the fastest part of the circuit, past the pit lane, and then you've got a very long run out past the first and second corners. So can be very tricky to manage the time. If you've got two-stop strategy in mind, you'll end up pretty much in the dog box in terms of trying to regain track position, because the thing is, though, there's a lot of opportunity here at Daytona for getting those places back, especially if you're on a faster, fresher compounded tire. The slipstream is very, very strong and a useful tool, and we may even be seeing some teams use that to their advantage and try and do a little bit of bump drafting around the track during the feature race. Of course, they're not allowed to do that in qualifying. That is very much frowned upon by the stewards, and excessive amounts of bump drafting during the race can also get you a one-way ticket to the stewards' room at the end of the race. So we'll see exactly what the plan is, but the favored strategies here, I think, today is actually going to be probably the two-stop. Mandatory tire is the softs, so you're not looking to have to run a slower tire at all today. It's really just about how far you can take the soft tire and how well you can manage your fuel. But the outfield here really does put a big limitation on that. I don't know why he's got his window wipers on. We're just seeing the Black Rose Mercedes there. For some reason deciding to throw on the window wipers for reasons unknown, because it's not raining out there at all. It's in fact very, very dry, so I don't quite know why we're seeing that on, but nonetheless, it is what it is. Maybe he's got the water going to get it a little bit clean. I have had a few issues with bugs out on the track. It certainly has been a bit of a pain in the ass, but not too many, so maybe he's just giving them a little bit of a clean as he goes round. Some comments from the grandstand as well. Hoping for a good race for NED Racing in Monaco and Super VT going to go along. So yes, agreed. I wish all the competitors the best of luck today, because one small mistake during the infield and it can cost you really, really big time. And that's, this is all besides strategy, because strategy at the end of the day is going to really play a big part of whether or not you can get track position. I think a really well managed strategy here can be worth something, potentially something like 40 or 50 seconds easily on track and overall race time, and that's going to make a big difference. So the teams are going to be, talking to their engineers, talking to the chaps around their team, and making sure that they understand how the car is going to perform. You want to be looking and getting some statistics on how the tires do wear. I don't imagine we're going to see anyone jump onto the mediums or the hard tires, though with the one-stop strategy, that is entirely possible. And the main reason for that is the softs are not going to last forever. We've got 60 minutes here, and I don't think the soft tires are going to last anywhere near 30 minutes. My guess at the moment, and I don't unfortunately have solid information on this just yet, we will get an idea of some of that during qualifying, I think the softs are probably going to last something like 15 to 20 minutes at the absolute maximum. The infield is very brutal, and some of these cars are not very kind to their front tires, namely the Mercedes AMGs. We've seen that in previous rounds where the Mercedes just seems to eat up all of its tires, and yeah, so I'm not sure. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be between a one-stop and a two-stop. There's an opportunity potentially for a three-stop if you can get 20 minutes on the softs. And, you know, think about this: 20 minutes on the softs, then 20 more minutes on softs, and then 20 more minutes on softs. So that's your two-stop strategy there. The three stops never going to work. So, like I said, between the one-stop and the two-stop strategy, I'm going to be very interested to see who decides to go on the medium tire later on in the race, because that could be an option here for getting yourself towards the end of the race. Though, at the end of the day, the big constraint at Daytona is always the fuel. All the high-speed sectors around the outfield, you'll be revving the car very, very high, so you will end up burning quite a lot of fuel no matter what you end up doing. And we see a nice new livery here for the privateer of Sean Parker. Beautiful white. That's going to make my job very easy. We've got a car parked on track in the background there. Looks like an Aston Martin. And a little bit of a pre-qualifying battle going on here between WTCR, Scarborough Motorsport, and our privateer. So I've driven the Porsche around here, and whoa. See, that's another area you've got to be very careful on. These GT3 cars do have a lot of power, so you'll be wanting to avoid getting slippery on the track like we've just seen. And before we continue, folks, we do have about 5 minutes until qualifying begins, so we're going to hear from our sponsor, Player1 Sim Gear.
Level up your sim racing experience with Player1 Sim Gear. Shop the biggest brands and the best range today. Player1 Sim Gear, official sponsors of MotorMotion E-Series.
So that is our official sponsor of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. Player1 Sim Gear was created by sim enthusiasts for sim enthusiasts. They're Melbourne-based and 100% Australia-owned and operated. And when they launched, they set out to create an online destination for racers and flight simmers alike, as we do see some action on track. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, a little bit of an off-track excursion there for the Porsche and the privateer of Sean Parker. Not ideal. But back to our sponsor. So they're a place to go and shop for all the best hardware and brands at the best prices. So they're passionate about giving back to and supporting the local flight and racing communities that make this hobby so rewarding for us all, and that's why you should check them out on www.p1simgear.com.au for all your sim racing needs, and they are proudly sponsoring the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. And of course, you are watching the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. You can find us on Facebook. All the links and such can be provided at my discretion. But nonetheless, it is www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. Do go and check us out. We post a lot of blogs, posts up there, lots of information, race analysis, team analysis, championship analysis. And we do run 3 series as well. And that includes the Track Race TCR Cup, the Surefire Supercar Series, and of course this, the Player1 Sim Gear GT3 Championship. So we do have a little bit of news coming in from the pit lane. Looks like Tim Pier's Roadie Dongs is currently not able to make it on track. So Strike Racetech are looking to find a replacement at the moment. Let's hope that they can find someone to put on track. Fingers are crossed. Heard a couple of names being thrown around the grid. It's potential they could get down here in time. They're not exactly local, so it might be a bit of a challenge there. But yeah, unfortunately, Tim Pierre is not able to make it onto the grid today. So the Strike Racetech Mercedes AMG currently without a pilot. That's no good. That's not going to be the news that Strike Racetech need today, especially considering their run of not necessarily the best performances during this season. Strike Racetech have got a lot of work to do. To bring themselves back into the championship, they'd have to win every single race by an absolute landslide to even climb the grid to a certain degree. So not the debut season that they've been looking for at Strike Racetech, sadly. And they'll be looking to maybe make amends for that over the winter break. And we'll be hopefully seeing them back in a little while. And it looks like we're about to go to qualifying. So until then, we're going to jump out to our lovely logo screen here Put a little bit of music on while we wait for the qualifying to begin. And we're about 3 minutes away, so the drivers all about to go and have their qualifying debrief. It's very, very important. Make sure everyone's on the same page and making sure that they're going to be doing things as they should be. There's quite a few rules here at MotorMotion E-Series. We do like to run a nice tight ship, very important to us. And yeah, these drivers so far this season have been doing a fantastic job keeping it clean and performing their duties as good racing drivers. But yeah, like I said, the championship heating up at the top. Dylan Scarborough's Scarborough Motorsport in the Porsche. They'll be looking to get a good result here today. They're still leading the championship overall, and in the Pro-Am and Am categories, Matthew Joynson and Dylan Scarborough will be very, very keen to get a good result here at Daytona. It's a good opportunity for them, though the Porsche, as I hear it, is a little bit lacking on top speed. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting one for them. They'll need to be dropping into the slipstream as much as possible and potentially managing a one-stop to reduce the deficit they have in top speed. Some of the better cars here are going to be the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. We know the Mercedes has fantastic top speed. But also, we've got to keep an eye on the BMW teams of Diffusion Race Engineering and Gridline Racing. Both of those teams have been looking strong at the American circuits, all of which favor a sort of high-speed situation. And the BMWs have been looking very, very strong. So I think there's going to be quite a lot to keep our eye on during this race, and I'll do my best here solo in the commentary box as always at Group B. So to everyone who's currently watching, thank you very much. And I can see in the grandstand some signs. What does that say? Let's go Rushton, go Rushfire. Oh, we've got a contingent of Wade Rushton fans. I think he might have gained a bit of a following after his fantastic result in the M class and third overall at Watkins Glen. That's brilliant. So some fans for Wade Rushton in the grandstand today, and I see some stands up for NED Racing as well. So give us a wave if you are in the grandstand and let us know that you're watching. It is fantastic to read what's going on in the chat there. So, of course, everyone in the chat able to post and to interact with us on stream. So good luck to everyone. Looks like qualifying is just about to begin. So we will be going back on track momentarily to give you all of that information on this brilliant, brilliant track at a sunny, sunny Daytona for round 7 of the MotorMotion E-Series Player1 Sim Gear GT3 Championship. Let's go on track and see how we go. All right, so the cars are starting to go out. It's a brilliant 5.9 kilometer track here. 12 turns to worry about and to navigate for all of the drivers, so no easy task. Never is at Daytona, having driven here myself, and the wind at the moment's picked up a little bit, now at 4.4 meters per second in the southerly direction, and that's certainly going to be an interesting one, because turn 4, which we're looking at right now, is certainly no pushover when it comes to tailwind. Ideally, you want that northerly wind, in particular for that corner, because the wind in the current direction doesn't even help you into turn 1. That's going to be a real hassle for these cars because it's going to burn up the tires a little bit more. You'll be relying on the mechanical grip a little bit more than the aero. Never fun. I've certainly been in that situation before. I hope all the drivers and the teams will be hoping that wind just decides to turn around all of a sudden. Miraculously goes from a southerly to a northerly. How good would that be? And then they'll get some real good traction into turn 1 and turn 4. That'll help them out. Saving a bit of tires and using a little bit less fuel as well on exit. So, but here we are. The original tri-oval here was actually 18 degrees at the starting in terms of the camber on track, and 31 degrees on that large bank we've just seen them go through. We've got the bus stop chicane to navigate as well. Very, very tricky to get right. You need to carry a lot of speed in and get the braking zone absolutely spot on. There's a big penalty marker there. The cameras are focused right in on that spot for the stewards. I've been talking to them earlier on today, and they showed me the camera they've got pointed directly at that exit off bus stop. They're going to be looking for millimeters. That's the detail of that camera on that corner. Millimeters it'll be between a penalty, and that penalty could be upwards of 1 second. The penalty line we've just gone past on the pit straight. And it's a pretty brutal place to have a penalty at the end of the day. You're right in the middle of the fastest part of the circuit. Cars are going in excess of 260 kilometers an hour. I think some of these cars will hit 280 by the end of the straight, which is absolutely brilliant speed. But to give you a little bit of history here on the track, while we're watching qualifying, they've just done their out laps. So a little bit of history on the self-proclaimed world center of racing. It's been a fixture here for stock racing and since the advent of NASCAR. Used to be just one big oval. And they still do race that. Of course, the oval still is available. But for GT3 class, we do like to enjoy ourselves with the infield part of the circuit, which was added later on. But it's got some humble origins. Used to be a sandy blast around the hard sands of the nearby beach. And they used to literally just do beach racing here at Daytona. And eventually we had a bit of a mishap because we had a guy called Bill France Sr. and he was going to Miami, but he broke down at Daytona Beach and just decided, screw it, I'm going to race here. So he decided to race there, and eventually he had this idea to build a racing circuit. So, you know, they ended up contacting an engineer there called Charles Moneypenny to discuss some plans, and yeah, he had some pretty specific requirements involved in terms of the highest banking possible to allow the cars to reach maximum speed. So if you didn't know the reason why these tracks bank like this, it's to allow these cars to go as absolutely fast as possible without having to worry about slip. So essentially what you're doing when you're turning left like that on a flat surface, you're going to be absolutely destroying the tires, and you'll have to be constantly correcting the car. The back end will want to step out on you. So by banking the track, you eliminate that. So when you're driving fast around those banked corners, it's like you're driving on flat ground, but it's relative to the speed and the direction you're going. So it's a really clever layout here. And obviously for cars like in NASCAR, the stock car racing, very, very important for them. Otherwise, they do run into some problems. They actually adjust the wheels specifically to make sure they can handle that kind of camber without burning up the tires. Makes it very hard to drive in a normal sort of flat part of the circuit, but luckily for them, they don't do the infield at NASCAR. So to provisional qualifying results, we do have Matthew Joynson setting the fastest time. It's a 46.431. Do expect that time to drop on those next couple of laps, and 20 minutes of qualifying here, so we've got plenty of time. We're only 4.5 minutes through. Looks like Aiden Sampson doing very well to get second position there, followed by Matt Kutscher. Then we've got Wade Rushton, so top of AM class at the moment. He's done a 147.069, hotly followed by Jeff Bruin in the 88 Valvoline BMW M6. Great looking car, that one, I really have to admit, and it's eye-catching, so easy for me to spot on track too. They're looking to use a bit of slipstream here maybe in the qualifying, but everyone is, so and I do forget, I don't think, as far as I'm aware in the rules, you're not really allowed to use the slipstream during qualifying, but it's a rather inevitable thing to end up with. You can see on track and the map up the top right there, lots of little packs forming. So maybe a little bit of teamwork here going on between the Gridline Racing chaps. Make sure they can optimize their qualifying times. But Squirrel only 0.16 behind his teammate Wade Rushton at the moment. And that's going to be a penalty for Wade Rushton. I can already see the gleam in the steward's eyes as they decide to bring the hammer down. I suspect, I could be wrong about this, as the old Murray Walker would always say, I don't make predictions, I make prophecies that turn out to be false. And this prophecy, turns out, was false. And on top of that, it's actually Wade Rushton getting the slipstream of Jeff Bruin. I just realized that. Wade Rushton is in the 88 car, and the 18 car is just pulled over to the side. That's Jeff Bruin. So now going behind, and he's going to compromise that lap for the sake of his teammate. So there is some good team action going on here between the Gridline Racing chaps. So then we've got RoboSport in 7th spot. Good job so far for the Diffusion Race Engineering chap. Ricky Rick here in the 28 car. And he is doing well in 8th spot there. Needs to improve, though. Monica Camilleri in 9th spot at the moment. I'm sure she'll be doing a faster time soon enough. And then we've got Troy Britnell, Karma Foster, and then in 12th place at the moment. And not a usual place to see Dean van der Zart, but nonetheless, there he is. Bring up the rear of the field is Chris White and then Dylan Scarborough. So all these teams will be looking to get into the 45s today. That's going to be the competitive time, but it's hard to get it all absolutely right. Got two classes of car here today. We've got the Pro-Am and the Am. The racing spec for the GT3 class is identical between the two categories there, but the drivers General abilities are measured by their Pro-Am or Am category entrance, and of course each team has got 4 drivers. So we've got 7 teams, 4 drivers each, and 2 privateers overall. And those drivers are split between the Elite category, the Pro category, of which you can go and view in the Group A lobby, and then the Pro-Am category and the Am category for Group B, which is what you're watching right now, by the way, in case you're just wondering. So, good times being set there. Looks like Matt Cooke has improved slightly. Wade Rushton comes into the pits. He's getting pushed out a little bit, I think, including by his teammate. So, Chops, the privateer, he's done very well, up into 5th spot. And the 426 car here of... That's Matt Cooke. Why has he got... I have to figure out why it's a white liveried car today. I didn't hear anything from the pit lane. So maybe they've quickly slapped on a special livery today. I'm not 100% sure. That car should be in a different configuration. I'm just going to jump over to the onboard here. And yes, it is Matt Cooke's car. It is MotorMotion liveried and everything like that. So they've done a good job to replace that today. His counterpart might be running similar. Let's have a little look at Chops' one here. No, so it looks like the Mercedes of Black Road Racing have decided to go white. And that leaves Sean Parker to have his darker liveried Mercedes AMG there in the Pro-Am category. So good on him, but he's done a good lap there, 46.8. But still only, he's still 0.4 away from the ultimate pace here by Matthew Joinson. So not currently right on the pace, but good enough for the top 5. Monica Camilleri improves. Good lap by her. She's getting into the 46s as well, or just above the 46s. As we do see our qualifying provisional lead go faster. A 46.3 by Matthew Joinson. And looks like Aidan Sampson just behind him also improved. So the Porsche looking very strong here with Matthew Joinson. They've obviously got that car configured absolutely perfectly. There's Monica Camilleri going past, and the 2 Gridline Racing chaps behind. So using a little bit of team strategy there to bring things in. Very clever to use that at the end of the day. And Dean van der Zandt, not qualifying where he should be. Must have had a couple of interesting laps there. 2 47s on the board. 47.224 his best at the moment. The Mobil 1 and Goodyear sponsored Jaguar F-Type. I don't think they have a V-Type, but certainly they do have an F-Type. This is a fantastic looking car. It's one of my favorite looking cars on the grid. I do often mistake it for the Aston Martin, but the 132 car here looking very cool for WTCR. He'll be looking to get a little bit of slipstream as well from the car in front. And that is Chris White, who does pull over on the run out to the outfield. So going purple there in Sector 2. Very, very good. Got to keep that pace, though. The low fuel runs are beginning, and we are now halfway through qualifying, so 10 minutes to go here before we start getting the results overall. And purple again goes Dean van der Zandt. We're going to stay on board with him. Looking very, very strong here. Can he put in a good qualifying time, get himself up the grid? This should be, by my calculations, it should be in the 46s, and that's going to be the competitive area at the moment. He's up 0.683 of a second. Very good job. So we do see Matthew Joinson improve again to 46.2 for Matthew Joinson. So our provisional leader just getting further and further ahead. 1 second the gap to IMAT. That's Dean van der Zandt. Can he improve? Let's see as he goes past the checkered flag. And yes, he can. That is a brilliant time. He's into the 45s, and we have our first 45 on the mark by Dean van der Zandt. Wow. What an impressive time that is from a fantastic driver. 45.653. What a stonking lap that was. He was up in Sector 2, up in Sector 3, and wow. Getting into the 45s already. That is fantastic. That's going to bring the challenge to Matthew Joinson. Can he put a 45 in? We will see. Another standout here, and actually to the top of the tables, it is Chris White. So for Black Rose Racing, Chris White has put himself into 2nd spot. That's on the first row of the grid. He's also an AM class driver, so that's an absolutely brilliant qualifying lap from him. He's just out of the 45s, but a very low 146 for Chris White, putting himself ahead of Matthew Joinson. and basically the rest of the Pro-Am field. So you've got to give your hats off to him. That's a brilliant drive. And sorry, that's Chris White of WTCR, not Black Rose Racing, 73 car. Great job. So the Jaguar, I'm surprised here, but looking very, very strong in a straight line. Neither of those chaps were using slipstream either. So I think the top speed here, and we're going to have to maybe take a little bit of a look at exactly what kind of speed they can do down towards the pit straight, because that is certainly going to be interesting. Matthew Joynson comes into the pits to refuel, get a new set of tyres and get back out there for the remaining 7 minutes of this qualifying. But as it stands right now, Dean van der Zandt in pole position, followed by Chris White, followed by PLE Black Friday. It's Matthew Joynson for Dylan Scarborough Motorsport in the Porsche. And we've got the BMW M6 of Gridline Racing. And that's Jeff Bruin and his teammate behind him on track at the moment, but well down the grid currently. Matt Kutscher comes in. Aiden Sampson in 5th spot, so he qualified well early on, but not able to do anything more. As we do see Wade Rushton go into the 45s as well, 45.8. Great job, great lap by him in the BMW M6. We know there's a little bit of teamwork going on between these two here today, so that slipstream will have definitely helped him get up there. But for an AM category driver, that is a brilliant, brilliant lap into the 45s. First AM class driver to be in the 45s, so that's very, very nice driving there from Wade Rushton, handling the BMW with skill and grace. Fantastic stuff. Continuing our march down the field, Matt Kutsch here for Black Rose Racing, the Mercedes AMG, sponsored by HiveIQ.com. He has put in a pretty good lap here, 46.5. It's a little bit off the pace at the moment, nearly a second down off first place, but 7th spot for him at the moment. So it's not too bad. Whoa, gets very sideways out into the outfield. Great control to land that. That is brilliant, brilliant work to keep control of that car. And we've got Monica Camilleri for NED Racing in the Aston Martin V12. I thought they would have had a bit more pace here today, but the Aston Martin's not looking particularly fast on the long straights, but she's just getting into the zone of putting in some low fuel runs now. So I think she will be setting some faster times momentarily. And we've got Richard Robinson of Diffusion Race Engineering. He set a 46.681, not too bad. Then we've got Chops, our privateer, into 10th spot. So the Mercedes, whilst they were looking strong earlier on, have started to fall off the pace a little bit. Then we've got Marty McFarlane. It's still in Scarborough in the Porsche 911. There's Mad Ricky Rick of Strike Race Tech, the 28 car. Going out for another lap. He's on low fuel and new tyres, so he'll be looking to improve. Troy Britnell, he's had a fantastic run in the AM class categories, in 13th spot at the moment, so not on the pace at all, sadly. And then in last place at the moment is Karma Foster. So overall, pretty good stuff, but the track will be warming up. They'll all be getting a little bit more anxious as we only have 4 minutes remaining, so that's going to be only about 3 laps left, depending on where you are on track. So getting tight here, qualifying. Who will get it? Position on the qualifying grid is very, very important here at Daytona. Yes, you've got slipstream, but if you can get away through the infield and have a good start, avoid the inevitable turn 1 chaos, you can be in a really, really good position to get away from your opponents, and that's very, very important. So 5th spot here for Marty McFarty. That's a great time in the JB Hi-Fi Porsche. Brilliant stuff. He's just on the edge of a 45, 46.290, and he's up on his time by 4 1/1000ths of a second. Ahead of him is teammate Matthew Joynson. But the top 3, Dean van der Zandt, Wade Rushton, our top AM class driver at the moment, and then Chris White. So that'll be the best result for Chris White this season across qualifying and races. Hopefully he can maintain that. The F-Type Jag looking very, very strong for WTCR today. They could be on for a real clean sweep if Chris White can continue that. And there, the stewards have pinged Dylan Scarborough. And I think that's one of our first victims of that area, using the runoff area at the bottom of the track to avoid incoming traffic. And he does have a lot behind him. Matthew Joynson on a push lap now. 3 minutes to go in qualifying. Good lap there by Aiden Sampson, a 46.321. Troy Brunel, 47.586, not too bad. But purple goes Matthew Joynson. He's on a flyer, already up in Sector 1. So through turn 5 he goes, into turn 6, coming onto the outfield now. Going to stay on board, see if he can improve. He's up for a top 3 position here in qualifying. Not sure if he's going to have the same pace as Dean van der Zandt, and purple again he goes. This could be a fantastic lap here from Matthew Joynson. He just needs to hold it round the bus stop. If he can get through the bus stop and maintain this advantage, he could take pole position. This is an absolute flyer. Low speed, low fuel and fresh tires making all the difference here in qualifying. 2 minutes to go. The timer is ticking down. Keep your eyes on the action, everyone, because it's going to get very spicy. It's good through the bus stop. Well done. Let's see the split. He's still up. He's still purple. Can Matthew Joynson do it? Let's see. We're going to keep our eyes on him as he comes through the final corner, through to the long pit straight. Fantastic stuff so far this lap for Matthew Joynson. Can he pull out a 45? What's it going to be as he crosses the line? And let's see. Oh, it's good enough for third spot. Up 0.4 of a second on his best time, 6/1000ths of a second behind the BMW of Wade Rushton. That is a fantastic lap. Can he put in another? This is going to be his last lap on track now, as we do see our leader also coming across the line. This will be his last lap as well. He had a pretty terrible one there, 0.6 down on his time. Second spot currently going to Wade Rushton, giving a bit of a slipstream or a bump draft to his teammate. Can he help him improve during this lap? He's already got a fantastic time in the 45s there. Now, if your car's not going to be up to the top speed that you need to be at, you're going to have to manage your strategy very, very well. And that, I think, is going to bring the one-stop in today. It's all to play for. Pit stops here are very long. So at the end of the day, if you don't have the top speed on track, your real option is to save tires, save fuel, go for the one-stop, save the time in the pit lane. 60 minutes here is going to be about 30-ish laps. So if you can save 1 second a lap, you can reduce yourself to doing a one-stop. Otherwise, the two-stop's going to have to be very, very consistent on their speed. Otherwise, they're going to end up being undercut. So, just having a look here, we are now on the final lap of the race. So, coming along the line now, Dylan Scarborough finishes in the 6th spot here. Will he be able to maintain that? We will see. Across the line with a 2.5 second penalty here for Aiden Sampson. That's going to end his qualifying a little bit early. See a bunch of cars now coming across the grid, and it's going to be Matt Kutch. Where can he put himself? No improvement to 10th spot for him. And Monica Camilleri doesn't look like she improves either, sadly. So no improvement there. But she's got herself under the 5th spot. That's a very, very good lap for the Aston Martin driver. Across the line, we do have a few more cars now. Let's have a little look. But all eyes on Chris White and Dean van der Zandt coming across the line. Will there be any changes on the grid? No, it's a slow lap there for Chris White. So that is your grid for today. Dean van der Zandt takes pole position here at Daytona for round 7 of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. Followed by in 2nd place on the 1st row of the grid, though. First time for him. Up on this point of the grid, it's going to be Wade Rushton in the BMW. Great job by the AM Class driver. He's top of AM Class today. Then it's Matthew Joynson, another Pro-Am driver in the Porsche 911. And then 4th spot in the 2nd row of the grid goes to Chris White, our 2nd AM Class driver. So we've got Pro-Am, AM, Pro-Am, AM, followed by Pro-Am, followed by AM. That's an interesting one. So the AM Class drivers have done very, very well for themselves here, the top 3 in AM Class. They're all going to be qualifying very, very high up the grid, and we will take you through all the results very, very soon. Great stuff from all the competitors today, and the track starting to rubber in well. The low fuel runs and the fresh tires, that has combined to create a fantastic series of nice low time scores there. So the fastest lap today by Dean van der Zandt will be a 1:45.653. That is a very competitive time, and he's 0.18 seconds ahead of the nearest competitor. So I was a little bit wrong earlier on. I was saying the Jaguars might struggle for top speed here, but looks like they've sorted that out, which is quite impressive, because if they've got the top speed without the slipstream, they are going to be very, very strong in this race. And so I do expect to see Dean van der Zandt start to pull away from the field pretty quickly as the rest of the Pro-Ams try to battle it out with the AM-class drivers that are splitting them all up. So a very, very mixed field here between the Pro-Am and AM-class, and I do like to see that. We have seen a few little things in terms of the teams working together to improve their rates of getting some good laps. So fantastic job to them all. Let's jump through the results now. So your Group B results in round 7, and before I mention this, we do have about a 7-ish minute gap. So we will run a quick advert very, very soon, but stay tuned for that. It is a MotorMotion E-Series advert, and it's very, very well put together, so you'll want to watch it anyway, I guarantee. So, in pole position, first row of the grid, it is the F-Type Jaguar of WTCR. Dean van der Zandt sets a 1:45.653. That is a brilliant time. Well done to him. Then on the second position, first row of the grid also, Wade Russian, first time up this far in qualifying. The M6 GTR of Gridline Racing, setting a 45.835. Closely followed by Matthew Joynson in the 911. So the 911 looking a little bit more competitive here than I had expected. Very, very good news for him and Dylan Scarborough. Then in fourth spot, the second row of the grid, Chris White, his best qualifying by far. I hope he can transition this into a race result, because he's been more or less down the bottom of the field for most of the race finishes, sadly. And it's almost become a bit of a running joke. It's been the WTCR sandwich, the whole grid sandwich between first place of Dean van der Zandt and last place of Chris White. So he's looking to upset that trend here today and get a good result in the race. And that is the qualifying position that you want to do that. In fifth spot, it is Monica Camilleri. Brilliant result from her, continuing her good run of form, very fast in the Aston Martin V12 for NED Racing. And then we've got Dylan Scarborough in the 911 Porsche, sponsored by JB Hi-Fi, the 1:46.290, doing him 6th position overall, third row of the grid. Seventh spot, it is Aidan Sampson for Diffusion Race Engineering, a 46.321, his best time. He'll be starting next to Chops 1983, our privateer Sean Parker in the Mercedes AMG. Then we've got Jeff Bruin, who is doing a lot of work to help his teammate, and sadly that's caused him not to be able to set a decent time. So 46.391. I did hear that he's had some things to do with his family here as well at Daytona, so maybe not able to take as much time to get settled in as he might have wanted, but nonetheless, still a good result in the top 10. So he'll be starting in 9th position. 10th position to Matt Kutcher for Black Rose Racing, sporting a new white livery, which I do love. Very visible on the grid, which I appreciate in the commentary box. 10th position for him. Then we've got on 11th spot, it is Ricky Rick, and he has done very well here for Strike Racetech. Followed by, in 12th spot, Richard Robertson for Diffusion Race Engineering in AM class. Then Troy Britnell for Black Rose Racing. He's in 13th spot. And rounding out the grid, it is going to be Karma Foster for NED Racing. So nearly a bit of a BLT involving the V12 Vantages and the F-Type Jags of WTCR. But WTCR looking very strong here today. That's very, very positive for them. So without further ado, we're going to jump over to a very quick advert, and then we'll be back with you momentarily. Please stay tuned.
Level up your sim racing experience with Player1 Sim Gear. Shop the biggest brands and the best range today. Player1 Sim Gear, official sponsors of MotorMotion E-Series.
All right, welcome back, and we're about to go into the race momentarily. Got about 1 or 2 minutes, and the cars are lining up on the grid and getting ready to go at Daytona. What a brilliant qualifying we had. Some fantastic lap times being shown across the grid. So looking forward to what is going to be an absolutely brilliant 60 minutes here. The mandatory tire is the Racing Softs, if you didn't know. And we do have a rolling start here today. So nice even setting for all the cars to get away on. And should be a little bit less antics into turn 1 as well, which if you have driven here or watched a race here before, turn 1 to the infield can be a lot of trouble. Really can be. So looking forward to seeing what the chaps and ladies and gentlemen are going to be doing today on track. I think there's going to be some good potential for points for the F-Type Jags of WTCR. Looking very strong at qualifying. And also there, the BMW of Wade Rushton, probably going to be getting in the way a little bit. So I am hearing that we're about to get on track and start the rolling start procedure. So, ladies and gentlemen, please buckle in, get ready, because we're about to go on track and begin our fantastic race here. 60 minutes at Daytona for the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. Let's go on track and watch all the action. Alrighty, so here we go. Rolling start procedure will begin momentarily for all the drivers. Then you'll see the 5 lights click over and the big honking horn will go, and that'll signal the start of the race. So who will get the win here today and take maximum points as the lights do go out, and green flag here at Daytona. 60 minutes beginning right now for the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship, and a good start for all the competitors down the grid. Dean van der Zandt leading into the first corner, followed by Wade Rushton, and then Matthew Joinson behind him. The top 3 getting a good start. The AM-class driver is going to be under pressure from Matthew Joinson immediately. So we do see a great little start there from the 777 car. Chris White running a little bit wide there on the exit of turn 4. It's not going to be ideal. And then 5th spot for Monica Camilleri. The grid as it was in qualifying, starting off. And looks like Monica is going to be looking for an inside run already on Chris White. Can she make it happen? Oh, what a dive up the inside, but there's been contact. Oh dear, and I'm already losing my voice, but contact there between Chris White and Monica Camilleri. That would be a good time to be redressing that position for Monica Camilleri. She did give it a bit of a send there in the 502 car and pushing the F-Type Jag of Chris White out of the way and putting him into the jaws of the Porsche right behind him of Dylan Scarborough. So not ideal, but the run down onto the bus stop is gonna be an interesting one. The first real slipstreaming opportunity for all the competitors. Will we see anyone dive out on the inside? Let's see. No, everyone decides to sensibly go through there. Very, very good choice from the competitors. Everyone will be starting on the Racing Soft today, as that is the mandatory tire. So you just get that done, get that immediately out there, but it'll be interesting to see how long they can make the fuel and the tires last today. That'll determine whether we're gonna see a first position or a second position. So, Monica Camilleri, she has given the position back to Chris White. Very, very good there. Excellent form. Good to see that. It's important because when you do get involved in a little bit of action, you need to make sure... Oh, more contact! Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. So we've had more contact there between Monica Camilleri and the other drivers. We've got that on action replay here. So let's watch them as they enter in to the corner. Let's see what happens. She late on the brakes. Goes a bit deep, looks up the inside, and takes out Matthew Joinson in front, and then gets punted herself by Chris White. Not ideal there for the NED Racing driver at all. So, the grid at it stands right now. Dean van der Zandt leading Wade Rushton, leading Matthew Joinson, who's in a battle at the moment for 3rd spot with Chris White. Chris White doing very, very well to keep these positions so far. That F-Type Jag is quick on the straights, as you can see in the front there. Dean van der Zandt starting to pull out a pretty decent gap to 2nd spot. Monica Camilleri involved in a couple of incidents there already. So we've got Aiden Sampson, who is looking to be a little bit on the defensive at the moment, going through the bus stop. He is obviously very worried about Jeff Bruin behind him in the BMW, getting a run in these slipstream areas. The outfield is notorious for this, so we will see some cars switch back and forth. But at the moment, 3 battle packs starting to open up. You could call them slipstreams packs at the moment, really. The BMW's fighting it out between Diffusion Race Engineering and Gridline Racing. So looking back through the grid now, see if we've had any major changes. Some action going on between 4 cars, 3 wide, as they go through the pit straight there. And a yellow flag. Oh, we've had a car off. We have had a car off, indeed. And I believe we have caught that on action replay. So what was going on? Let's see. We've got Matthew Joynson here. Has gone off and he's slid off into turn 1. He hit the grass, and that is all she wrote. He is going to be round. That is super unfortunate for him. That's going to ruin his race. Where has he started to slip back to? Quite far down the field, it seems. Very unfortunate for him. So the Porsche 911 not going to be happy there, but his teammate, Dylan Scarborough, now gets the advantage of being up in the 3rd spot. So being able to take advantage, he got ahead of Chris White on the straights. And that has put him up into a great position there. So 2 AM-class drivers in the top 3 right now. Looks like the AM-class drivers are having an absolute field day here at Daytona Beach. Brilliant job by all of them. Our race leader has got a gap of 1.6 seconds to the car behind at the moment. And we're going to search down the grid and hopefully catch a glimpse of where Matthew Joynson has ended up. Yes, there he is. He's fallen to 10th spot. So from 3rd spot all the way down to 10th. That's really unlucky, and it was an unforced error as well, unfortunately for him. Ran onto the grass in turn 1. I'm not sure if he just overbraked himself and just got the car a little bit sideways. Very unusual thing to happen, to clip the grass on the inside part of the entry to turn 1. That's very abnormal place to spin, but nonetheless, he's managed to do it. So whether he gets a massive recovery drive here and sets a new a new track record in terms of speed and pace, we'll see. But that was certainly a new record for places to spin entering turn 1. Usually it's hitting the barrier on the inside, but looks like he's been going very shallow just by judging what we're seeing on camera there. He's going very shallow into the corner. Doesn't trust this MR car when it comes to braking a little bit wider on the corner, which is the traditional line to take. A little bit of grass kicked up back there, but he has gone purple in Sector 1. So he's starting his recovery drive now. The M-Class of Diffusion Race Engineering, Richard Robinson, in front of him in the BMW M6. So he's got a lot of traffic to get past, does Matthew Joynson. But doing well there. He'll continue his charge to the field. Right now, it's Chris White on the back of Dylan Scarborough. These two are going to start to jump between them, I suspect. Both of them going to be looking for a slipstream. But the slipstream for Dylan Scarborough is absolutely miles out. And behind him, we've got Monica in the Aston. She's managed to maintain her 5th spot so far. And doing very well. She's right in the slipstream of Chris White, right on the bumper. So she'll be getting a great pull through the outfield. And behind them, Jeff Bruin. So Jeff Bruin, he qualified 10th spot. He's already up 4 positions. Excellent job by him. I think that's the most positions gained on the grid so far. So Jeff Bruin for Gridline Racing doing a fantastic job there in the Valvoline sponsored BMW. But further back, and Matt Kutch doing well in 8th spot. He's in front of Richard Robinson and on the soft tyre. I'm keeping a close eye on the tyre life of these Mercedes because I know that they're very brutal on their tyres, but looking pretty good so far overall. But what a fantastic track we have here. 12 corners to navigate the infield and the outfield. Absolutely spectacular scenes as we are now 8 minutes into our 60-minute endurance race. So I do want to talk a little bit more about this track because it's got a fantastic history as we do see the action continue around the grid. But yeah, the ground broke on construction here in about 1957, and the land was actually leased by Daytona Beach City at $10,000 US a year on a 50-year period from that point. So that will have expired about 14 or 15 years ago. I imagine it's a little bit more expensive now to lease this ground. I'm pretty sure NASCAR own this now. I'll double check them, the information I do have, but construction costs here were not cheap. There were some very innovative solutions that were used to build these highly cambered tracks you can see in the background there. They had to use a special technique that they ended up patenting. They literally patented the technique to build these high-angled tracks, and they used that over at several other NASCAR locations in the future, including Talladega and Michigan International. So it's very interesting history here at the Daytona Speedway. Fantastic track and located near the airport as well, so we get great views, and I think the capacity here, crowd capacity, is somewhere in the 80 to 90,000 people. It's an absolutely massive, massive stadium. All sorts of racing comes to this track across the year, including GT3, NASCAR, stock racing, and I think IndyCar has actually been here in a few recent years too. Of course, we have the Daytona 200 motorcycle race and the Daytona 500 as well. So very, 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 very good track, used by a lot of different competitions, and Monica here is putting the pressure on Chris White significantly, as we do follow them around the track. And the dive up the inside again, that's where they had contact last time, a little bit more contact between the two. Monica gets ahead, but can she hold the position? It's not necessarily the best place to overtake at the end of the day, because then you give the slipstream to the car behind you on the outfield. So Chris White in the slightly faster F-Type Jag is going to be basically right back on her bumper by the time they get through bus stop. Looking further down the field, and this is the second battle pack that's evolved between Mad Rick, Richard Robinson of Diffusion Race Engineering, sponsored by Spotify, and then Chops 1983 ahead of them. 1.5 seconds down the road is the privateer in his BMW. It's not a great start from him. Looks like he's jumped down the field quite a few spots, sadly, and didn't qualify particularly well either, unfortunately. And ahead of them, she's had a fantastic start here. It's Karma Foster for NED Racing, sponsored by NED Whiskey. So the Aston Martin of Karma Foster getting to a good start. Up, I believe that's 3 positions so far in the race. Very, very good job. And I'm hearing that we've actually got an onboard with Monica, so we will be going on board with Karma Foster for a little bit. So I did mean an onboard with Karma Foster. So we get to watch a lap here at Daytona from the viewpoint of the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. And I'm also hearing that I've been given permission to give us a nice audio lap as well, so I'm going to tune out for a minute and let you guys enjoy the beautiful V12 sounds of this fantastic car. Fantastic sounds of this V12, flanked by 2 V8 Mercedes AMGs. Absolutely brilliant. And some fantastic action on track between these 3. The 2 Mercedes there. Monica looking for a move up on the inside at the bus stop. Compromised her out of the exit of the bus stop. but able to get ahead there of Troy Britnell. Doing very well, but Chops, Sean Parker, he's gone and leapfrogged 2 of them. What an overtake that was. So he got a great run on on Karma Foster through the bus stop because of her mistake, and then used the slipstream very, very wisely to get past Troy Britnell and Karma Foster. Very, very well done there from our privateer. He's really putting on a masterclass of overtaking at the moment. Still only in 10th spot, so he'll need to do a little bit of work, and we will return to the top of the field, where it looks like Dylan Scarborough has lost out to Monica Camilleri, who's leapfrogged a couple of drivers there. So well done to her. Unfortunately, we don't have that on the replay camera, sadly. But the yellow and black JB Hi-Fi sponsored Porsche 911 of Dylan Scarborough, and also the owner of Scarborough Motorsport. And look at that fantastic close-up shot. These drone cameras are just unbelievably good. He's right on the back of Monica, using the slipstream to his advantage. And Jeff Bruin behind in the BMW. He's gained a ton of places. Really good job by Jeff Bruin in 5th spot. And then Matt Kutcher in the Black Rose Racing liveried car. So let's have a little think about strategy as we come up to the quarter mark of this race. I do see the tires starting to go off for a lot of these races. And we can see at the moment the tire life for Dylan Scarborough. Looking for a move on the outside there. Jeff also looking for a move. Oh, and what a switchback on Monica Camilleri. Brilliant move there. Can he make it stick into turn 4? Great stuff from Dylan Scarborough. Monica ran wide and he got the cutback. He tries it again, but runs into the back of her. Oh dear, all the action is happening now. Good stuff. So we got on the onboard follow camera for Jeff Bruin, watching the action in front. So Dylan looking very, very spicy behind Monica Camilleri. Monica's under a lot of pressure now, thrown to the outfield. She's going to have 2 cars slipstreaming behind her, and Jeff is putting a lot of pressure onto the M-Class car of Dylan Scarborough, who goes very shallow into that corner. He's compromised into the outfield. Jeff is going to give him a little nudge. He's got nowhere to go, sadly. But this little slipstream train looking very, very positive at the moment for Jeff Bruin. He's going to get a massive run, potentially into the bus stop. Doing well to manage his tires. So we'll go through the grid momentarily and give everyone an update on the strategies at play as we do watch this action here. And oh, Dylan looks up the inside. There's no room. Monica closes the gap. Great racing between the two. Very fair. But that's compromised the exit there for Dylan Scarborough. And Jeff is going to have the run on him down the pit straight. Will he make a move into turn 1? He's certainly got the overspeed to do it. Monica is a master of defensive driving. We've seen her do it in past rounds. And she's putting on the show once again for us here today at Daytona Raceway. Monica, masterclass of defensive driving. Here we go, round 2. Dylan moved over to the outside. They're 3 wide into turn 1. Outside goes Jeff Bruin. He gets tagged on the rear slightly by Dylan, but Dylan loses out. And ahead is Jeff Bruin. Great overtake there from Jeff. Managing the outside line. There's no grip out there, so really well done on his tires going defensive now to stop Dylan Scarborough from cutting back into the corner. And that's giving Monica a little bit of breathing room, but not a lot, because behind them is Matt Kutcher in the BMW, and it all is closing up quite quickly between these 4 drivers. A little 4-way battle here, starting to evolve. Great stuff from these drivers, and very fair driving between all of them. So looking ahead, and we will try and keep an eye on the entire grid as much as possible. 10.5 seconds the gap that Dean van der Zaan has built out for WTCR. That's fantastic. He is going to be sitting very comfortably, just managing his tires, managing his time. He'll be looking to potentially do a one-stop here, but he's about 50% on that right rear tire and about 30% of fuel, so doing pretty well. Then on about similar pace here, but slightly better on the tire life, is Wade Rushton in 2nd place in the 88 car. Good stuff from him. 3rd place and under a lot of pressure from Dylan Scarborough after just having overtaken them all. And it looks like Dylan Scarborough has actually managed to get ahead of Monica. So something has just happened that we've just missed out on the run up to the outfield and through the bus stop. But big moves there from these drivers. Jeff Bruin up into the podium positions. He's also on about the same, so about 50% on the tire, rear right tire, and about 30% fuel. Marty McFardy, though, he is running low on that right rear. The Porsche is not kind to its tires around here. And he's about 25% of his fuel as well, looking back. And looks like Monica's had a bit of a problem. Let's see if we can catch that on the instant replay. Looks like she's had a penalty to serve. So there we go, getting overtaken by a bunch of drivers and putting her way down the field now. It's very unfortunate for her. So Matthew Joynson on a recovery drive. His tire life is also pretty bad. He's on about 30% fuel. He'll need to come into the pit stop in the next 5 or 6 laps. In between all that is Matt Kuchar. The Mercedes doing much better on its tires than I imagined. And the Porsches being the ones who are really in trouble here at Daytona today. The hot conditions not treating that right rear very nicely at all, it looks like. And the Mercedes actually doing pretty well. About 45% on that right rear, somewhere about there. And 30% on the fuel. It's pretty decent. That's pretty decent. You see the difference between all the cars and the Porsche. Massive difference there. And now Chris White is now getting into slipstream range of Monica Camilleri. Monica has used a lot more fuel than the rest of the grid. So that could equate to a few extra seconds in the pit stop, which is never good. Ideally, the main thing you focus on here is actually the fuel life. Oh, we've got a car off, and that's Matt Joynson again. Oh no! We're going to jump up to Matthew Joynson here. Looks like he's run wide on the exit. No, he got squiggly on the exit, on the entry. Oh no! And he's gone around. Oh dear, and a rejoin as well. That's gone totally wrong. Oh, Matthew Joynson just can't keep it off the grass today. He's spun the car around more times that we've had pit stops, or will have pit stops in this race. Oh, what a disastrous weekend. He's gone from 3rd on the grid all the way to the back. He's gone back up to 5th spot and then spun it again back to 8th position. And with wearing tires, he is going to be absolutely fuming in that cockpit. Maybe the heat at Daytona just getting to him a little bit, and the lack of grip in those tires already starting to suffer from. You've really got to adjust when you have low tire life like that. Especially in the Porsche. It's got such good, it's got great amounts of torque on the engine, very, very fast on its acceleration, but sadly for Matthew, just not managed that quite right, and yeah, he's got a lot of work to do in the rest of this race. So back to where we were, Chris White, he's got Dylan Scarborough ahead of him, and Monica Camilleri behind after she served a penalty. His tire life's okay, so is Monica's. And then we've got Karma Foster, who's also managing her tire life very well. Got a decent splash of fuel in the tank. Richard Robinson on about 45% on that right rear. About just under 25% fuel, about 23% of the fuel remaining. Then we've got Mad Rick. He's using a bit more tires than the rest of these guys and girls. So he's on about 30%. Still better than the Porsche, which is surprising for the Mercedes. The Mercedes is usually much, much worse than the Porsche. But here it seems to be okay. Do you see a little bit of action between these guys? And oh, there's been contact there between Madrick and Richard Robinson. Looks like Madrick does redress the position. And we've been told we've got an onboard of this. He tries to slip down the inside on the exit of the bus stop due to Richard Robinson going wide, but Richard cuts back in. There's nowhere for Rick to go as the gap does close up. And he should be redressing that position and giving that back to Richard Robinson momentarily. So he's low on fuel now, is Madrick. Into the pits. Our first pit stoppers are Monica Camilleri and Richard Robinson after that contact in the bus stop. So deciding to go and get on a fresh set of tires. Now we've missed out on what's happened to Aiden Sampson, but over the race so far, of which 23 minutes has elapsed, he's fallen all the way back down the grid, qualified reasonably well, but the Spotify-sponsored Diffusion Race Engineering BMW just not doing well as he does get ahead of Monica Camilleri. So he's not going to be blue flagged now, and he's got a car behind him. Monica's not going to be happy about that, though. Wow, gets a really good exit out of turn 4. Will she look for a move into turn 5? Let's see. Let's stay on board with these two. But fresh racing softs for both of them. In fact, I know exactly why Aiden is so far down the grid. It's because he's pitted. I think it was on lap 8. So lap 8, he has pitted. And that means he's on fresh tyres, and getting ahead of Monica there is absolutely critical for his race strategy today. But he needs to keep her behind. She's going to have fresher tyres, and she's taken on a lot more fuel as well. So she's running long into this race. So the racing softs have lasted upwards of 20 minutes as Wade Rushton in P2 has come into the pits. So the one stop is very much on here. If you can use the fuel correctly, you've got 36 minutes remaining in this race. If you can extend that stint by 13 minutes, that's no easy task, but it is definitely doable. So the one stop is definitely on the cards today. I was very excited to see how the one stop and two stops are going to interact. I think Aiden's on a two-stop strategy because he is running on lower fuel, and so he'll need to come into the pit. So he's trying to reduce his time in the pit stop because he knows he's got another one to make later on in the race. As Monica does make the move, and she's going to have a little bit of overspeed, but not enough to get past that very, very fast BMW. Great racing here between these two as into turn 1 they do come. Good, clean racing between these two, and Monica, she's been involved in a bit of contact earlier on. Out of the pits does come Chris White. He's going to be involved in a four-way car battle as, oh, they're very close there. To the Black Rose Racing car. Troy Britnell, I don't think he's blue flagged, so he's in provisionally in 8th spot. As I think we've just seen some action on track ahead. Let's see if we can catch that. Let's see, fresh cold tires here, and running wide is, oh no, the 88 car has run wide, and through goes his teammate, Jeff Bruin. So Wade Rushton having a huge mistake there on fresh tires. That's not going to do any good for his race. So he slipped down into 6th spot. Now Dean van der Zaan into the pits. So the pit window is very much open at the moment. It's all shifting around on track. Matt Kutscher provisionally up into P1 of this race, but needs to pit stop very, very soon. Dean van der Zaan in, our race leader. He has got to do a bit of refueling as well, but fresh tyres go on. Also to pit is Matthew Jointson, provisionally in P2. By the time he passes the pit straight here, that'll get him ahead of Dean van der Zaan momentarily. Karma Foster, provisionally in 4th spot. Oh, again! Oh, Matthew Jointson, for the 3rd time today, gets it wrong at turn 1. So that rear right of his is just destroying his race. He needs to get into the pit. I think he's trying for the one stop at the moment. But with the Porsche, I think you really need to be, with the tyre wear that is going on with the Porsche, you really need to be thinking about the two stop, because every time you crash, you're losing so much time. He's got damage on the front left tyre, the front bumper. Oh, it's looking quite worse for wear, that Porsche. And the livery designers for Dylan Scarborough Motorsport will be very angry with this man today. But more angry with himself will be Matthew Jointson himself. He is just compromising his own race. What a disaster. So very unfortunate for him. Out comes our race leader. And yes, he is our race leader because Matt Kutch in front of him does still have to do a pit stop. Looking back in the grid, Dylan Scarborough is also pitted, provisionally P6. So right now, let's see who's in front of the AM Championship. It is right in front. So between these two again, they've been fighting in the AM class quite a lot this season. So good to see them still in the battle. And of course, the points kind of reflect that as well. These two battling it out for the top 3 positions in the AM class championship. Currently only separated by 3 points. First place in AM category is Wade Rushton, who we're on board with now. Behind him, 2nd spot on 97 points. So it's all to play for between these two cars, and the strategy looks to be very, very similar, though a little bit less fuel taken by Wade Rushton. I don't know if he's on a fuel-saving strategy now. He may well be. But behind him, Dylan took a lot more fuel, so he'll be going probably right to the end of this race, trying the one-stop in that Porsche. That's such a risky thing to do. We've seen what happened to Matthew Jointson, especially on the entry here. The MR cars are dicey at best at this track, let alone with low tires in this heat. And out of the pits comes Matt Kutcher there. He's actually up into 3rd spot here. Jeff Bruin does get ahead of him, and because of Wade Rushton's mistake a few laps ago, that's put Jeff Bruin up into P2 of this race, and a minute and a half until half race distance. So great job there, but Wade Rushton will be hunting down the cold-tired Black Rose racing car of Matt Kutch. But Matt Kutcher, he's been having a fantastic race so far. He's come out of absolutely nowhere to get into third position, a podium for him if he maintains this position throughout the race. He's on full fuel, fresh tyres at the halfway mark. He could probably make it to the end on this one-stop strategy. So a little battle pack here between second and fifth spot. It's all to play for second and third. But out the front, dominating this race is Dean van der Zandt, who's had a mistake. He's got damage. Yes, Dean van der Zandt has had a bit of a mistake. Might have been at the bus stop chicane. Fortunately, we don't have that on the replay cameras at the moment, but 15 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. So barring any more mistakes, he's doing very, very well. And I do hear we have a little bit of an onboard lap prepared with Dean van der Zandt. So let's go on board with that now. Very clean through turn one there. Smooth driving. You can see the driver inputs from Dean van der Zandt. He's a very, very skilled driver. Bit of a tyre whisperer. I think he has and knows a few people on the grid that he can chat to about that, but nonetheless very, very skilled at his craft. But with the damage settings we do have at the GT3 Championship, he will be holding that damage all the way through to his next pit stop, and he may not be pitting again. Even so, that 15-second gap looking pretty good for our race leader at the moment. So Troy Britnell comes into the pits now on a smell of an oily rag, but nonetheless doing well. And Matthew Joynson has gone into the pits to repair the damage. That's going to put him P13. So he's right at the back of the grid now, but he's chosen the racing medium. So this is the first time, and probably the only person we will see on the racing mediums. He's thought to himself, right, these softs are not going to go another 30 minutes because they're dodgy after about 15 minutes on track. So he's thought to himself, okay, well, the mediums will last 30 minutes easily, and he'll have the grip to do some pretty decent push laps. We'll have to keep an eye on the timing sheets in the next 15 to 20 minutes or so, because if he's not able to do the pace that he needs to on those mediums, then this could be a big mistake. I think he should have been on a two-stop strategy with this Porsche, sadly. Karma Foster in 12th spot. She's had a pit stop as well. And then Mad Rick just a little bit up the road, also having pitted. A little bit low on fuel, though, if he's going for a one-stop. So we'll see if he's able to pull out a bit of a gap behind him, or if he ends up on a bit of a leaner setting for the fuel map. It's quite possible that he will opt to run it a little bit leaner. Ahead of them, it is Richard Robinson for Diffusion Race Engineering. Love this green car and the Kiwi flag on the side. I'm totally not biased, of course. Chris White ahead of him has also picked up damage. It's interesting, the drivers are not taking account of their cold tires and seemingly making a lot of mistakes. But definitely not a good idea to be running it too hard on your first lap out of the pits. The tires are cold, you need to let them warm up, or you will not have the grip. Speaking of tires that are warm, the 502 car's tires looking very tidy through there. Chasing down Sean Parker ahead in the Mercedes AMG. That'll be for 7th position there. So Monica needs to get the foot to the metal because she's on the two-stop strategy as far as I can tell. So she'll need to be setting very consistent, very fast lap times to bring herself back into contention. At one point she was up in 5th, if not 4th position in this race, but that battle has evaporated for her. So the real battle that's going on right now is between Jeff Bruin, Wade Rushton, and Dylan Scarborough. These three all fighting it out for 2nd and 3rd. Dylan Scarborough and Wade Rushton, who we're on board with now, both in the AM class. So that's 1st and 2nd in AM class, with the 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am currently being Dean van der Zandt and Jeff Bruin. So Gridline Racing have been absolutely brilliant at the Americas. The BMW is just tuned to perfection. They've obviously done their research on these American circuits, and the BMW is clearly quite suited to these conditions, which is helping them both out. Running a little bit wide is Dylan Scarborough, trying not to scrub the tires too much. Behind them, Matt Cooke has fallen back a little bit, unfortunately, so he's not part of this race really anymore. Jeff Bruin under a lot of pressure from his teammate. I don't think there'll be any team orders here. Just going to check the strategy between them. Looks like they're both going to be doing a two-stop strategy, so expect both the Gridline Racing BMWs to be in the pits again, whereas we might, and I stress might, be seeing a one-stop strategy from Dylan Scarborough, though, again, as I was mentioning earlier, I don't think that's a great idea being on the Porsche, because it is eating its tires very quickly, and if you start to lose that grip at the rear, especially on corners like that in the outfield and the bus stop entry, you're going to be regretting it if you spin round. And his teammate, Matthew Johnson, has already spun 3 times on this track today. Very close battle here in the slipstream. They both are. A little bit of bump drafting going on between the teammates. That's totally allowed in the race. And Dylan Scarborough was sort of forced into doing a bump there. Oh, gets very, very sideways there. That's going to be rough on the tires. Manages to bring it back under control out of the bus stop, and nearly had a look up the inside of Wade Rushton. That would have been very opportunistic of him to do so. There's a little battle here going on between Monica Camilleri of NED Racing, and Sean Parker just ahead, although the gap has widened somewhat. 1.1 seconds the gap between them at the moment. But a fantastic day out for the Gridline Racing chaps. They're going to be bagging a bunch of points. It's going to bring them back in range of Dylan Scarborough Motorsport. And the results at the moment not looking great for the Scarborough Motorsport chaps. Matthew Johnson not doing well, but Dylan Scarborough here, he's in second in AM position at the AM class at the moment. So that's going to be a bunch of points because the rest of the Pro-Am field is behind him. So the rules here at MotorMotion E-Series, if the AM class driver finishes in the race ahead of the Pro-Am drivers, as we do see a little move there from Wade Rushton. He's gotten past his teammate. All right. So Jeff Bruin actually falling behind his AM class teammate. Very interesting. It could be a little bit of teamwork here because Wade Rushton is, of course, leading the AM class at the moment, but only by 3 points to Dylan Scarborough. So maybe a little bit of action going on between those guys. We'll see. But nonetheless, past goes Wade Rushton in the 88 car. Jeff Bruin will now be trying to hold off Dylan Scarborough as long as possible. Going to do a Minister of Defense, do a Fernando Alonso or a Checo Perez to Dylan Scarborough and try and keep him behind as long as possible. But all the while, Matt Cooke keeps bringing himself back into this fight. Someone else who's bringing themselves back in the fight is actually Aiden Sampson, though. Looks like he's going to be into the pits reasonably soon. He's already been in the pits once, but back up to 6th position. So clearly going for the 2-stop. And into the pits he goes right now. So there we go. He's going to put in a splash of fuel, fresh tires, and he'll be back out on track for more driving. Very, very good job. All right, so the 2-stop happening there. And looks like the rest of them might be trying to manage their fuel for a 1-stop. And because they're managing their tires very well at this point. So even Dylan Scarborough, he's still got 50% of his fuel left on board. So he won't have to worry too much about pitting again. He's got plenty of fuel to get to the end. 22.5 minutes to go at Daytona today for MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship, sponsored by Player1 Sim Gear. Do go check out our sponsor, of course, on the internet. Player1 Sim Gear, www.p1simgear.com.au. And of course, you can check out the MotorMotion E-Series on www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. We post a bunch of blogs about the races, about the teams, about the drivers, and about the upcoming series. So do feel free to tune in. And of course, I have to plug the YouTube channel as well. Like and subscribe, please do. You get notifications about when you go live. And of course, It's totally free, and you can unsubscribe if you want to. But if you're enjoying this tonight, please do give us a like and give us a subscribe. It's most appreciated. And of course, bringing you the free broadcast here of the GT3 Championship, all the live action, round 7 at Daytona. And what a race it's been so far. A whole bunch of action. We've got lots of little battle packs opening up, the slipstream being used very strategically by some teams. I think Gridline Racing have been doing the best job to work together. Both these chaps got fantastic pace here today, qualifying very far up the grid. Dean van der Zandt was our qualifying leader, and he's flown off into the distance. He's about 10 seconds up the road. I think he's going to start doing some fuel management, though, because he's starting to eat into that lead. It's starting to shrink a little bit. So we'll see. We'll go on board with him momentarily and have a little look. I'm just telling the broadcast team now, please give us some shots of Dean van der Zandt. It looks like they've given us that. He's still carrying this damage. So this is the thing. He's going to be trying to fuel save and manage the tires and do this all while carrying a bunch of damage for the next 21 minutes of this race. So that's no small order for the WTCR driver. The Jaguar F-Type, though, looking very, very strong. I do want to find out where his teammate has ended up. So we'll jump around the grid and see if we can find out eventually what's happened to Chris White. Now, unfortunately for Strike Race Tech, Mad Rick is the only participant here today for them, Ricky Rick. His teammate Tim Piers, Roddy Dongs, he's unfortunately not been able to make it to the circuit. Bit of a bout of illness that's hit him. So they weren't able to find a reserve driver in time as well. So only one Strike Racetech Mercedes out on the grid today, sadly. Very unfortunate for them. And Chris White, there he is in 13th position. So he's... this is actually Troy Britnell we're on board with now, but I can see it on the timing screens. And Troy Britnell's got some damage as well. As Dean van der Zandt comes into the pits. Okay, things have started to heat up here at Daytona a little bit because our race leader is currently in the pits. He might be getting a splash of fuel, some new tires, and he's going to try and repair that damage because he knows that it's slowing him down. So that puts Wade Rushton, our AM-class driver for Gridline Racing, up into pole position. He's in first place. Great stuff. His teammate behind him for Pro-Am in the 18 car. He's in second spot. So the Gridline Racing guys are now in the lead of this race. Dean van der Zandt chose to come into the pits. He's getting a little bit of splash of fuel there. New tires. He's gone full fuel. So Dean van der Zandt, rapid as he is going to be fighting his way through the field for the last 19 minutes of this race. This is going to get very, very interesting. He's got 5 cars ahead of him to the lead position. And now these 3 here are our top 3. I suspect now, based on their fuel, they're probably all going to have to pit again. Just looking at the fuel amounts here, Dylan Scarborough is definitely going to have to come in for a new set of tires. No way those are lasting for another 18 or 19 minutes. Matt Kutscher, on the other hand, and this is where things are going to get very interesting. Matt Kutscher has been a bit of a dark horse this race. The brand new livery for Black Rose Racing, going with a stark white, red, and blue, which I think is absolutely stunning. Great livery from them. He's got 50% fuel left, and his tires are looking good. He's been putting in consistent 47s on average in terms of lap times. So we could be seeing a one-stop here. That's going to bring him right into contention. This could all start to close up. We're going to have a fast-running Dean van der Zandt trying to catch back up on the field. We're going to have Wade Rushton and Jeff Bruin and Dylan Scarborough all pitting again, as we do see Sean Parker come into the pits. And we're going to have the one-stopping Matt Kutch trying to make it to the end on a lean fuel map. This is going to be a very interesting end to this 60-minute endurance race. Put your predictions in chat, everyone. Who do you think is going to take it? Because at this stage, I cannot for the life of me predict who's going to end up on top. So put your predictions in chat. And of course, now that we're coming up to the last quarter of this race, please do start considering your driver of the day. And we'll be talking about that after the race and choosing our driver of the day. It's going to be someone up in the top 3, I suspect, and probably based mostly on strategies. So I can just imagine the kind of situations we're going to be in. It's going to be very, very exciting. So, 5th place now to Dean van der Zandt. He's on his charge. He's 16 seconds off the back of Matt Kutscher and closing rapidly. This man can go flat out. To the end of the race, he can use all of his tires. He's not going to be worried about any of that. So that's really good news for him. And Jeff Bruin and Wade Rushton at the top, they're going to be a bit worried because I think they're going to have to pit again. Aiden Sampson, he's pitted twice now, so he won't have to pit again. Behind him, Monica Camilleri is fighting for a top 5 position, but whether she can bring it back in to contention is going to be all up to whether she can put in some good laps. Stuck currently behind Aiden Sampson. But the NED Racing driver, she's been looking strong today. She qualified 5th spot. So we'll see exactly how it goes. And some comments from the grandstand at the moment. One-stop lean fuel. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that works out for them. Yes, in the famous words of the dodgeball commentators, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them. Got another comment. Marty McFarty and Dylan Scarborough is in for a good result. Yes, I do agree massively. But did we just see him come into the pits? No, he's in pole position, so he's picked up a penalty as both Jeff Bruin and Wade Rushton come into the pits for their 2nd stop this race. But Dylan Scarborough, he's picked up a 1.5 second penalty, but he is provisionally in the lead of this race today. But look at behind. He's only got 2-second gap now to Matt Kutscher behind. So this is going to be very, very dodgy. He's going to have to come into his pit stop very, very soon, but he's on for a potential podium here, is Marty McFarty. And if he gets a good couple of laps here, which unfortunately with that penalty he's probably not going to get, he might have been able to overcut the 2 chaps of Gridline Racing and come out ahead of them. So we'll see when he does decide to pit. I'd be surprised if he doesn't decide to pit this lap. But he's been giving good pace. A 46.186, his fastest lap. Ironically, it's also the lap that he got a penalty on. So maybe that had something to do with it. Through the bus stop chicane he goes. Matt Kutscher getting ever closer in the rear view mirror of Dylan Scarborough. So great stuff so far. But here we go. So Dean van der Zandt has, of course, come out ahead of Wade Rushton and Jeff Bruin, who are now in 5th and 6th position. That puts Mad Rick here in the position to be overtaken by Wade Rushton. Great overtake there through into the chicane. The bus stop chicane. Great stuff there. And Mad Rick, it's not going to matter too much because he needs to come into the pits again anyway. Dylan Scarborough into the pits now. So he'll be switching onto a nice fresh set of racing tires, but doesn't need too much fuel. He's only got 14 minutes left in this race. It'll be very interesting. So another switch of the lead. It's now Matt Kutscher, who, as far as I can tell, does not need to come into the pits again. He's leading this race ahead of Dean van der Zandt by 15 seconds. Wow, this is going to get very intense because there's only 7 or 8 laps left in this race now. So Dean van der Zandt's got to close up over 2 seconds a lap to catch up with the one-stop strategy Matt Kutscher. This could be a strategy genius call from Matt Kutscher this race out. I really hope he can make this happen because what a strategy call this has been so far. And if he can continue to hold off Dean van der Zandt on the timing sheets, he's absolutely in for a win here. His tires are looking pretty good. His fuel's looking good to the end. Might need to manage that just a little bit towards the end, so he might drop off in pace, but he's got a 15-second buffer to do it on. Brilliant stuff. So 3rd and 4th position now. Back to the Gridline Racing boys. There's Dylan Scarborough. Oh, Dylan Scarborough has just come out behind those 2 chaps, but he's on faster, fresher tires, and he's got plenty of fuel on board, so he'll be able to push and put a lot of pressure on Jeff Bruin ahead. Right behind him, though, that's Mad Rick, who's going to come into the pits soon. That'll elevate Sean Parker in 7th spot up into 6th position. And then you've got Aiden Sampson behind as well. He's having a little bit of a battle with Monica Camilleri. Jeff running wide on the exit there. That could be a penalty. We will see if the stewards decide to pick that up. And actually, it's a penalty for Dylan Scarborough. He's picked up another one. Oh, what a shame. On the exit of the bus stop chicane, Dylan Scarborough picks up 1 more 1-second penalties. That is really not going to help him at all. In fact, I think Madrick's just come into the pits, actually. Yes, he has. There he goes. Go, go, go. This is absolutely brilliant stuff so far. This race, 3 different interacting strategies towards the end of this race. And we are going to be on for a absolutely brilliant photo finish here, I suspect. The gap between first and second, now at 14.3 seconds, but only 11 minutes to go in this race. It's looking very, very good for Matt Kutscher. What a strategy call this has been. The one stop saving him upwards of 40 seconds in overall race time. And yes, he's been doing slower laps. He's been in the 48s and the 47s. But when you save that time at the pit stop, he's made some magic happen here. Absolutely brilliant. And he's extended the life of those softs so long. You can't even see Dean van der Zandt in the distance. As we pan back and have a little look, it's just, they're just nowhere. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So the gap between Dean van der Zandt and Wade Rushton is 13 seconds. So between Matt Kutscher, who's not going to stop again, and Dean van der Zandt, there's only one podium position up for grabs now. And we've got 3 drivers separated by a couple of seconds, all fighting for 3rd place in this race. All of them on the racing softs, all of them going absolutely ham with their fuel, giving it absolutely everything at the end of this race. So brilliant, brilliant stuff from everyone on board. The damage still being held by Troy Britnell. Karma Foster in head at 3rd place. Madrick has come out of the in 12th position, and then Robbo Motorsport Racing, for Diffusion Race Engineering, I should say, is actually ahead in 11th spot, and 10th spot goes to Chris White. So sadly for Chris, he's gone from, I think he qualified 4th position. So his best qualifying result has unfortunately turned into another slightly disappointing race result here. But yeah, he should be able to hold off the Diffusion Race Engineering BMW behind him for the rest of the race. But this is another little battle to watch, because this is for the last position in the top 10. Matthew Joynson spun around 4 or 5 times in this race. He's in 9th spot, running the medium tyre. And look at the tyre wear. This Porsche has been absolutely brutal on its tyres. Dylan Scarborough will be pulling off a masterclass, the teammate of Matthew Joynson, to make this work. But he's gone for the 2-stop strategy, which I really think is the ideal strategy for the Porsche. It's just too hard on its tyre wear to really manage the 1-stop, and that's what Matthew Joynson was trying to do. He's a very clever guy on his strategies. Unfortunately, he just doesn't really have the car to pull them off. So the Porsche just brutal on its rear tyres. So Matthew Joynson, the ideal strategy clearly is the 1-stop, because it's taken Matt Kutscher from way down the grid all the way to 1st position. And he's still maintaining the gap. But look at that fuel. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Matt Kutscher might not be lasting as long as we thought. 4 laps to go. Jeez, is he going to make it? Predictions, please, in chat. Let's see. Because if Matt Kutscher cannot manage his fuel now, I mean, if he manages his fuel right now, he is in for a race victory, the likes of which we haven't seen him do this season. But if he runs out of fuel, I mean, he's got 4 laps to go. He needs to be managing that fuel all the way now. Put it into fuel map 6. Short shift the car. Looks like he's revving it out still, so I don't know if he's realized the position that he's in. His engineers might be screaming at him over the radio, mate, save fuel, save tires. Because 8 minutes to go, he doesn't need to pit again. If he manages this correctly, he can stay out all the way. But if he doesn't realize that he can do that, or doesn't think that he can do that, then it could be all she wrote, and that'll be a podium position thrown away by Matt Kutscher. He had the fuel to do it, and he had the gap behind him to Dean van der Zandt to do it too. And Dean van der Zandt is in absolute no man's land right now. No action on the grid for him. So on board we go with the battle that has been raging this entire race between Wade Rushton, currently in 3rd position in the 88 car. 4th position is teammate Jeff Bruin and Dylan Scarborough. So the AM class leader at the moment is going to be Wade Rushton. The 2nd place for AM class is Dylan Scarborough in 5th spot overall. And yes, I mean, I'm just thinking still about Matt Kutscher. And there he goes. He's in the pits. Oh, no, Matt. I think he could have managed to the end. I think that's a real shame because I was expecting the one stop from him. He nearly pulled it off, and this is going to cost him. Across the line and past the pit lane comes Dean van der Zandt back into the lead. So Dean van der Zandt retakes the lead of this race. Beautiful sound from that Mercedes as well, but this F-Type Jag also sounds pretty good. But leading the race once again, Dean van der Zandt, and it is a big lead. So I would expect at this stage to see Dean van der Zandt win the race. But here's the real critical thing. Matt Kutscher has not changed tires. Matt Kutscher has stayed out on the same set of tires as he went in on, and he is probably hoping to catch up a little bit to Dean van der Zandt, but he certainly saved himself a lot of time in the pit stop. He just grabbed the fuel that he needed, and away he goes. 6 minutes to go. That means that in third position, we've just had a little overtake here between the Gridline Racing chaps. So Jeff Bruin in the 18 car now goes up into third position. He's on for a podium position finish here, is Jeff Bruin. That'll be another good good result for him. And pushing ahead, I think he's been trying to help his teammate, Wade Rushton, keep ahead of Dylan Scarborough. Now it's all on Wade Rushton. He's got a 2.5 second gap, sorry, 2.8 second gap to the rear, to the front bumper of Dylan Scarborough behind him. So that's quite a good gap. These two have been working so well together. I mean, hats off to the Gridline Racing guys. They have, from beginning to end, stayed on each other's bumpers, helping each other out, doing a bit of bump drafting, helping with the slipstream. And did Dylan Scarborough just run wide there again? I think he did. Let's see if that's a penalty. It could well be. But the story at the moment really is Matt Kutscher. I mean, what a race he's been having. It looked like he was going for a one-stop strategy, but didn't. He didn't change his tires at the end. Very brave move. 5 minutes to go. And he's gone from right down the grid all the way to second spot. Brilliant stuff. I think Matt Kutscher will definitely be on the full fuel map. I think he was before, trying to pull a gap out to third place. So realizing that his race is not actually with Dean van der Zandt today. His race really is versus Jeff Bruin, who's been overtaken once again by his teammate. So Jeff falls back to fourth position. I think the team orders have been taken off. So the team orders have been rescinded. There is going to be, they're allowed to fight, these two. They're allowed to fight for position. So whoever gets the last run in the slipstream is going to get the third position finish here between these two. So no team orders in effect. They're allowed to fight. Let's go. Some good racing here to the end between the Gridline Racing guys. Looking down the field, Sean Parker in 6th position. Monica Camilleri in 8th position. She's been doing well, but unfortunately fallen back in the overall race distance. Behind them, the battle rages on between Chris White in the F-Type Jag for WTCR and the Diffusion Race Engineering BMW of Richard Robinson. So this battle has been going back and forth, but 3 minutes to go. And Chris White in the BMW, in the F-Type Jag, sorry, he is looking pretty mighty for a 9th position finish here today. Dean van der Zandt extending his lead at the top. 3.5 minutes to go in this race, and Matt Kutscher is managing the gap back to Wade Rushton very, very well. In fact, those guys for Gridline Racing fighting together is actually going to give Matt Kutscher the advantage he needs on those very heavily worn tires. There's 2 laps left in this race after this lap. And Wade Rushton, he's leading our AM class at the moment. Dylan Scarborough behind him is second in AM class. He's got a decent gap to Chops behind him. That's Sean Parker behind him. So we'll see if Chops can make a push to get past Dylan Scarborough. But Dylan's got great tire life at the moment and very low fuel for Sean Parker. So will the Mercedes of the Privateer be able to get up into the top 5 today? Or will that honor go to Dylan Scarborough? Now, Dylan Scarborough does get extra points for finishing ahead of Sean Parker, but oh wow, this gap is closing up quickly. Marty McFarty. Dylan Scarborough is looking in his rear mirror, and objects in these mirrors do appear larger than they are in real life. And or it might be the opposite way around in this case. So 1.1 second the gap, and falling between 5th and 6th position. So little battle pack starting to open up all the way through the grid now. 2 on 2, 1 on 1, and with a clear decisive victory in sight now for Dean van der Zandt. He's going to come across the line, and the white flag is now raised. So we are now on the final lap of this race, everyone. And Dean van der Zandt looking strong. The gap continuing to grow between Matt Kutscher and Wade Rushton. So second spot almost guaranteed for the Black Rose Racing driver. What a result for Matt Kutscher. This has been a strategy executed to perfection today. A masterclass in how to do it at Daytona. Reduce your pit stop time. Gain track position. Use that track position to get yourself ahead. And here he is from way down the grid up into second spot. That is brilliant stuff from the Black Rose Racing driver. But Wade Rushton is starting to put the pedal to the metal. He's starting to really push this car because he knows that a second position is only 5 seconds down the road. And with one last lap, I mean, there's no way he's going to make up 5 seconds here. So it's really now down to Jeff Bruin and Wade Rushton. Oh, Jeff nearly goes into the back of his teammate there. Good stuff from Jeff. Can he make something happen? He knows it's the last lap. Wade Rushton he's weaving along the track, trying to break the slipstream. He knows Jeff is going to be fast down these last 2 straights. We're going to stay on board this. But into the bus stop for the last time is Dean van der Zandt. He's going to win this race here without any more mistakes. Yes, through he goes and around the last line here. On board with the action between Jeff Bruin and Wade Rushton. Good stuff between these drivers, been very fair and very strategic between the Gridline Racing chaps, working together across the entire 60 minutes to get a great result for them both. Oh, and Jeff gets the run on Wade Rushton. Was that a penalty that he picked up? I don't think so, but across the line comes Dean van der Zandt. What a win for him at Daytona. Brilliant stuff. And then second place for a masterclass, it is Matt Kutscher. Great stuff, and Wade Rushton still ahead of Jeff Bruin. Can he get the run? Let's see. Down to the line they go, and Wade Rushton will take third position. His first podium here in the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. Congratulations. Then it's fourth position to Jeff Bruin, and Dylan Scarborough will, with a bit of damage, take home second spot in the AM class, and fifth overall, Sean Parker in sixth place, Aiden Sampson and Monica Camilleri in seventh and eighth, respectively. Then it looks like the battle that we wanted to see, Chris White, he's managed to stay ahead of Richard Robinson, and across the line he comes for his best result of the season. Congratulations, Chris White. That is the race you needed to bring yourself back into the championship and give yourself a bit of confidence. You do have pace. You do deserve to be driving here at the MotorMotion E-Series Championship. You've been doing extremely well. What a fantastic qualifying he's had, and a brilliant race result overall, so congratulations to him. Wow, what a fantastic race we have had today, folks. Absolutely brilliant, and a masterclass, again, from Dean van der Zandt. As per usual, we're getting a little bit used to seeing him up the top of the grid, but nonetheless, with a fastest lap time as well of a 1:45.783, it is Dean van der Zandt for WTCR taking the victory here at Daytona in round 7. But the podium position here that I'm really on about is going to be Matt Kutscher, second position. That was a strategy executed to perfection. I can't disagree with anyone in chat voting him driver of the day because I think he deserves it. So for everyone in chat, please put your driver of the day into chat. Let me know, and we'll all discuss that momentarily after we go through all the results. Third position and his first podium in the GT3 Championship. First in AM class, third overall, his first podium. And it is Wade Rushton for Gridline Racing in the BMW M6, assisted all the way by his teammate Jeff Bruin. Jeff Bruin, who takes fourth place. Great result for the Gridline Racing chaps. Really well done to both drivers. And then second in the AM class category, it is Dylan Scarborough for Scarborough Motorsport in the 911 Porsche. Very, very good job from him. Unfortunately, a few penalties that just took him out of the running for that third position at the end of the day. So very well done to Dylan Scarborough. Then it is Sean Parker in sixth position in the privateer. Good race for him overall. And then Aiden Sampson for Diffusion Race Engineering. Eighth spot goes to Monica Camilleri, Super VT 2000, and the V12 Vantage for NED Racing. Excellent job by her today. And then Chris White, his best result of the season, and congratulations to him. Qualified very, very well, fourth in the grid. Ended up finishing ninth in the race overall for WTCR. That's some good points for him in the AM category. Then it is Richard Robinson for Diffusion Race Engineering in AM class in the BMW. 10th spot for him. That rounds out your top 10 today. Then we've got Mad Rick for Strike Race Tech. His teammate, Tim Piers, unfortunately not able to make it today. And then Matthew Joinson, who has had a disaster of a race today. Spinning at turn 1 twice, getting damage in another corner, spinning at the bus stop, not able to manage the one stop on the tire wear that he had with the Porsche. So very unfortunate for PLE Black Friday today. Not the result he was looking for. 13th place goes to Karma Foster for NED Racing, as she's done well today. And then rounding out the grid today, it is Troy Britnell, Brits Lightning for Black Rose Racing in the Mercedes AMG. Congratulations to all our participants today. What an absolutely fantastic race and result we've had in the Pro-Am and Am category here at Group B. Fantastic job from the top three. Congratulations to Dean van der Zandt, Matt Kutcher, and Wade Rushton. Oh, my voice is absolutely dead, but it's time to discuss the driver of the day. Before we go out of the commentary box, I already see the stewards knocking at my door. They want to ask me a few questions, but I've just paused them for a second. Let's all discuss driver of the day, because Dean van der Zandt, he had a bit of a masterclass today at the end of the race, managing his strategy well, two-stopper. Wade Rushton, best result that he's had, and podium position in the AM class. But I think everyone agrees, and I can see a lot of votes here for Matt Kutch. I think without a doubt, a strategy masterclass from the Black Rose Racing driver, Matt Kutch, in the 426 car. It's just absolutely brilliant. I thought he was going for the one-stop. I thought he had enough speed, but he decided, you know what? I can still get second place here. He put the pedal to the metal. He put his foot down, got that gap to Wade Rushton, and then jumped into the pits, didn't change his tires to save himself time in the pit stop, a splash of fuel in, back on the track, second spot for him overall. I think without a doubt today, driver of the day is Matt Kutcher. Well done to the Black Rose Racing driver. That is an epic result for him. I think that's the best of his season as well. So his first podium here in the GT3 Championship, and his best result overall so far. So excellent stuff from Matt Kutcher. Congratulations to him. He is our driver of the day. And of course, congratulations to all the teams and drivers today at the MotorMotion E-Series Player 1 GT3 Championship. This has been a fantastic round 7 at Daytona Beach. Brilliant stuff. I hope everyone in the grandstand has had a fantastic day today at the sunny Daytona. Thank you for joining us. My name is George Cooke. I've been bringing you the live commentary today from the commentary box at Daytona, and we will be back in 2 weeks for round 8. I'll let you know exactly where that is, because we are heading to Japan. It is time to go to the world-famous Suzuka circuit for round 8, where we will be taking a little bit of a couple of weeks break, but back on the 13th of June. Might be some weather involved, but nonetheless, we will be moving back to our real-world forecast. So if there's rain in Japan, there'll be rain in the race. So Suzuka is the next round, and really looking forward to that as the Driver Championship and Team Championships really start to heat up towards the last 3 rounds of this fantastic series. So once again, to everyone in chat, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please give the channel a like and subscribe if you've been enjoying the race commentary and broadcast tonight. And yeah, I think we're going to probably leave it there. So thank you once again to everyone. Thank you to MotorMotion E-Series, and thank you to us proudly our sponsors, Player1 Sim Gear. Do give them a look in as well. www.p1simgear.com.au and MotorMotion E-Series on www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. motormotion.com. So from the commentary box here at Daytona, thanking you all, and it's been my absolute pleasure to bring you all the action tonight. Please stay safe. We will see you in 2 weeks. Next week is the TCR Cup. Please join us for that. But stay safe. Take care out there. And of course, we will see you next time. Good night, good evening, and goodbye.
Level up your sim racing experience with Player1 Sim Gear. Shop the biggest brands and the best range today. Player1 Sim Gear, official sponsors of MotorMotion E-Series.